just pause.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful morning. My name is Sanil, Sanil Bose. I'm based out in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. I'm the founder and director of Ayruz Data Marketing. I've been in the field of analytics about 18 years now. I even started using the Google Analytics when it was first launched. Helped over 100 or 150 clients over the past 18 years. I've been part of a few startups, some of them success, some of them a dozen of them failures, but a lot of learning over this time. I'm working with a lot of clients, mainly on manufacturing, e-commerce, real estate, etc. Have my husband and a father of two beautiful daughters. My spouse is a pharmacist. She and I live in a place called King of Prussia in Pennsylvania. Okay. So I'll just quickly say we have a lot of experience in the field of digital analytics and have served in at least 4 main industries, manufacturing being our main focus for the past couple of years, then agencies and publishing, startups, real estate, tourism, e-commerce, and then we have been part of a lot of associations, including Forbes, and I actually contribute to Forbes, agency council once in a while. Have several articles published over there. We have partnered with several of the mainstream organization based in India, Canada, and the US. And we have some certifications and agency partner relationships with the Google, Meta, etc. We also HubSpot certified partner as well. Okay, let's get started with this. There was, and I just wanted to apologize for some of the confusion that happened over the promotion part. There was some miscommunication between us and Digital Nova Scotia. So first and foremost, I apologize for the confusion. What we were saying is like Google Analytics free version was going to stop recording data on July 1st, which is exactly 130 days from now. So you have to really act right now, because if you have not even migrated it, that means that on July 1st, 2023, your data will stop recording. That doesn't mean that your data, the current data, will go away, but the Universal Analytics data processing will stop on July 1st, 2023. You won't see new visitors on your analytics dashboard if you are using a Universal Analytics. So it is very important that you kind of start and plan your process of migrating GA4 right away. And then we also have to think about how you are going to keep the existing data and how you're going to use it, and what are the best way to process the data as well. And I wanted to say that this webinar is not a how-to guide, but I'll go through few demos explaining few key aspect of GA4, key aspect of migration, etc. But this is definitely how to guide. But there are quite few YouTube videos or articles out there which explain the how to guide. More than happy to help you in a way if you have any questions. I will attach my calendar invite if you need any support. I actually dedicate about 5 slots every month to help understand their need and help them guide on how the transformation look like. All right, key agenda basically. I'm going to go through the history of analytics and then key dates that you have to think about, and what happened to your Universal Analytics data. How you should switch to GA4, what are the steps that you have to take, and then key benefits and challenges of GA4, on different stages of GA3 to GA4 migration, how to back up your existing universal analytic data and how to use it. And then finally, I touch upon a little bit on BigQuery integration, but it's a topic that needs a lot of time. So I'm going to touch a little bit on it. Again, like I said, it's not a how-to webinar, but I'll explain why it's useful, how it's going to be beneficial for you in later during the presentation. History and key dates. Google started this Google Analytics way back in 2006, by acquiring a company called Ochin, and then that was then transformed into something called Universal Analytics, which is what you use today. And they also had a SDK which is used for mobile app tracking, which in 2016 actually they acquired another company called Firebase, which actually provide mainly app analytics, and then they launched that Firebase. So to put it in perspective, actually for the fundamentals of GA4 comes from Firebase. How the data is being modeled, how the data is being tracked, it all came from Firebase. And in 2019, actually, they actually sunsetted the Firebase GA4, and they also sunsetted the SDK, which was earlier used for mobile app analytics. And then they started this app plus web property in Universal Analytics. And you may be surprising when GA4 was launched. It is way back into 2020. It's almost 3 years, and the adoption has been very low to minimal. And a lot of transformation and adoption happened over the past 6 months. Some key dates. On 1st of July 2023, Universal Analytics data processing stops. That means that on 1st of July, you won't see any new data coming into your Universal Analytics. On 2024 Jan 1st, the historic data will be deleted. So you have about 6 months from then to back up your data, Universal Analytics data, put it in somewhere, whether it's a Google spreadsheet or whether it's a BigQuery or wherever, or an SQL database, wherever it is, you have about 6 months timeline. And in 2024, the Google Analytics 360 will also be sunsetted. So what does it mean for your brand? If you don't act today, what you're gonna lose is basically all the data that you have collected over years, spending data, your customer acquisition data, your behavior data, conversion data, all other insights. If you don't act today, you're gonna lose all of it, on January 1st, 2024, completely. All the data backup will be gone. So you need to act today to make sure that this data is properly backed up, and you convert your existing GA3. If you're using a Universal Analytics, convert them to GA4 so that you have a better way to manage your marketing data. In effect, if you don't act this, you're definitely going to spend more money on marketing, because you don't have visibility of what your performance was like. This is going to be a big brainer for the marketing communication department. But there is a good news. If you act fast, you can securely migrate to GA4. So what is a GA4 basically? I'm just gonna quickly highlight the key benefit. Fundamentally, it's designed for cookieless feature. What it does mean is, like, as you know that Safari has already stopped tracking third-party cookies. So the only data that Google is gonna stop recording the third-party cookie, as well as sometime early next year. So this is Google Analytics is developed based on a event-based data modeling. What does that mean? Is basically everything that is happening on your website is an event. Let's say, for example, somebody click on a button, that's an event. Somebody come and visit a page, that's an event. Somebody doing a purchase, that's an event. The good thing is, like, unlike the previous event, which only had a category, action, label, value, it has got much more value, much more ability, which is like, you can you can put a lot of parameters, event parameters into the Google Analytics, so that you can track much better data this time. Then another important element is basically the unified data collection. So what does it mean is, like, let's say, for example, if you have an app, if you have a mobile app, and if you have two mobile apps, all of the users that you have, you can actually bring into one area, and then you can unify that area, unify that data stream. Mobile app, web, your store data, if you need to, they all can be bring into one data to understand the holistic view of your users. Now, the challenge is basically it's not an automatic upgrade. You need a completely new property. So it's going to be a completely new property. So your tracking will start from zero. Technically, it's a little more challenging than the Universal Analytics. In fact, it's much more challenging than Universal Analytics, because the way it is designed, it is to ensure that the data that you produce, because the way it is handled is basically enable them to store a lot of data. So that means that data storage itself being one of the biggest challenge. So that means that you have to consider other ways to manage your GA4 data too. GA4 generally allow you to store up to 2 months of data and a maximum of 14 months. It's all depend upon the quota available. Basically, for free version, that's the maximum that you can go. 14 months. And another big thing is, like, it's still in a work in progress. You may be finding that, the GA4 is slow. Sometimes it doesn't work. It's just because, still it's a work in progress. And you see, and you also know that the reports are not really as best as you see on a Universal Analytics. So you would see a lot of changes in the upcoming months. And one of the key thing is, like, it just let you do your data on your own. That's how it is being designed. So this is something that I just explained earlier. The fundamental difference between Universal Analytics and GA4 is that in Universal Analytics, it's all session based. So user comes in, the session start, and anything that happens after that, there are different things that happen, say page view, a custom event, say a button click, or a white paper download. They're all tracked as events with very basic information. Purchase is a different type of activity, right? They're all based on session. A user comes in, and all action that happens is attached to that session. However, in GA4, everything is an event. There are two types of parameters that you can provide. One is basically user parameters. User parameters could be anything like user ID, user type, in any of those things that you may have wanted to store as specific to your business need. That is what a user parameter is. Event parameter is basically anything that you need as part of the event. Like, let's say, give an example of a white paper download. And you may wanted to have what type of user is it? Like, let's say, for example, it's an agency user, or is it a B2B user? User type that you can specify, and that's a parameter that you can say, like, it's going to be very specific to you. So event parameters can be any number based on your business need. You just have to specify that in the event data as a parameter, and then it will store in it for you in the Google Analytics 4. Cross-platform unification. This is one of the biggest and the most advantaged aspect of GA4 is that the data that you get, it uses three things to unify your users. So how they are using it? There is something called Google Signal. What is it basically? Is somebody who is using a Google tool and who has accepted the personalization, Google ad personalization, they use that data. Let's say, for example, I'm pretty sure that you may have seen where when you go to site, they ask you to log in, using Google account. That's all part of it. And also you actually accept their the terms and conditions with the ad personalization on. By default, it is on. So whoever user that has got, they use that as a way to unify the data and track across user journey. Let's say, for example, if somebody did some activity on their desktop and then went back to their mobile or tablet or wherever it is, Google use that signal to unify the data. Then second basically is something that you are already aware, user ID. User ID is anything that you use to use in your database, for example, as an ID to identify a user. Earlier in Universal Analytics, you had that ability to do that, but the problem is that it's only a subset of the people who logged into your using your login, right? Sometimes may not get the complete picture of it, and so you only get a subset of data in Universal Analytics, unified data. But if GA4, with all the three elements, device ID is basically the ID of the device. They used to connect that device ID using these Google Signal and device ID together to get the unified ID for Google. So that's how it actually generate data, unified data, and I'll quickly explain the account structure. As you see today, you have your users, then you have your properties, you have multiple views, multiple views like views for different type of users, or part of your website. But in GA4, there is only two things, right? There is only user, and then there is properties. If you have multiple views that you need to have it as a property. So that is a fundamental change that you would see on GA4. Let's take an example demo to look at how GA4 look like. So you can see that the way it is being structured, it's slightly different from your Universal Analytics, but a lot of KPIs that you can see here are more or less similar to Universal Analytics. So you don't have a lot of difficulty understanding what they are. Like in users, new users, some of the metrics such as bounce rate has been taken away because it's a measure of KPI that's already been wrongly reported. So they bring into a better metric called engagement right now. Basically, how engaged they are on your website, app, etc. You can go to Google to get access to a demo account. You can go to Google and see access this flooded account, and then you can also access a merchandising store as well. So here you can see the life cycle. So life cycle could be like acquiring your users, could be any mean, like email, your paid campaigns, so on and so forth. That's the report that you can see in here. I see the direct, organic, whatever the data that you have, whatever marketing activity that you have, that drives your visitors, that is called the acquisition. That's the data that you could see about acquisition. Then here it is engagement. It's similar to behavior in the Universal Analytics. Unlike the other ones, like I said, it's an event-based thing. So you could see events, like different types of events that you track. It's you can tag your page title if you need. That's also possible. Then in Universal Analytics, we track goals, right? Let's say, for example, someone submitting a form, that is a goal, or someone doing a purchase, that's a goal. That's also a goal. But in Universal Analytics, that's called a conversion, right? Conversion is basically the same as goal, but difference is like it's tracked based on event. Then obviously the monetization, which is where your e-commerce purchases, so and so forth. Let me show you an e-commerce data right here. See that you have the item name, your product item, the number of items in the cart, your revenue, etc. in here. It's very similar, but the terms are slightly different. That's all the big difference is. And then I'm gonna explain what do you mean by unifying your data. So see, as you see here, there is an Android app that has got a data stream, which has got a stream ID. So you can create new streams here. and then you can use that stream on your different devices, whether it's an Android, whether it's an iOS, whether it's a mobile. That's how you're gonna connect your data and unify it, and then Google will do some magic that I explained earlier using unification, using Google Signal, device ID, and user ID to unify your data. And here also there is something called audience. This is something that's very powerful when you're thinking about remarketing, thinking about marketing, etc., where you can create some audience based on your data, and then you can use that audience to connect with your Google marketing platform, Google AdWords, to specifically focus them, giving them specific discounts to purchase, etc. Those all can be done through that. So you can see some of the key data collection, data retention mechanism here. By default, it's 2 months, but you can go up to 14 months. Then if you need to store the data to somewhere, that's where BigQuery or PostgreSQL or MySQL come into place, whether you can send this information to that database, because if you are getting only 2 months data, then definitely you need much more than data, right? So you need to store this data. That's where it becomes a little bit more complicated and challenging for GA4. Okay, I am gonna show you. So I usually suggest that I always use Tag Manager to manage your pixels, whether it's GA4 pixel or Universal Analytics pixel, because it's much more easier to manage your pixels. It's much more easy to track, debug, etc. All of that can be done through Tag Manager. So that's why I always suggest that we're gonna use mainly a Tag Manager to manage your pixels. And I am going to show you a few other things. What happened? Okay. All right. Let's go to reports again. Now, like I discussed, Google earlier said that it's basically this GA4 is designed in a way that it's do it on your data analysis. That's how it is being designed. So you can fundamentally split your data, fundamentally slice your data, and understand how things are like. Let's say, for example, there are a few example funnel that we created. Here you see that first open visit, and then session start, and the screen view, and then purchases. Here this is a funnel that you can create your own using this exploration report, then a free form report. You can create your own reports as you need, based on your requirement, based on your reporting mechanisms. So that's where the exploration comes in. You can create your own exploration, and there is quite few templates library already available here, which you can also use. So that's also a key aspect of GA4, which let you slice your data and try to understand it your own. So a lot of these reports are custom report that you can create on your own. It does need a little bit of technical knowledge, but as you go through that, when there is a new system comes in and everybody has no idea how to use it, but as we go through it, it becomes much more easier to understand. All right. So I'll quickly go through some migration steps. These are the four steps that you have to take before you migrate, right? What's the process look like? So first and foremost, you need some technologies, some key resources, developers, some analysts who understand GA4. So key and important thing is like just identify a resource who know the basics of GA4, who know the basics of JavaScript, who know the basics of tracking. That's definitely a requirement. And the developer is the one who is going to create a lot of data that is required to track our marketing KPIs. Then prepare a migration checklist. I have created a migration checklist. I'm going to send that migration checklist as part of the post webinar email. So you're going to get that free of cost. And identify and create a project plan. Project plan would start with understanding, like, what's the current state of the analytics look like, what are the KPIs that you are currently using, and then go and interview your stakeholders, business stakeholders who need this data to do better decision, right? Try to understand what they need, and then add all the KPIs that is needed for that tracking as well. Then the next thing that you have to do is like audit your existing tags, right? You can go to Tag Manager, or you can go to analytics to look and find out what are the key measurement, key performance indicator that we are tracking through different mechanisms, whether it's goal, whether it's event, etc. Audit everything and put that into one spreadsheet, and try to have an explanation of each of the KPIs that you are tracking and how you are tracking, and then use that as a starting point for your migration. Whatever that is being put on your existing Tag Manager, existing analytics, then you have to take that over and transform it to the new GA4 systems. And then basically the most important part of this GA4 migration is basically creating the data layer, configuration, and variables. Like I said earlier, you can have as many parameters as you need, whether it's there are two types of parameters, user parameters and event parameters. So the number of parameters can vary, based on your need of tracking, it can vary. At the same time, what does that mean for you as a developer is basically, you need to understand how you're going to show that data in the data layer so that you can grab the data, you can put it in the GA4. So you need somebody who is well versed with understanding of KPIs, and then understanding how they can put it in the proper data layer, data in your web page, in your mobile app, etc. And I always advise to use Google Tag Manager, just because it's much more flexible. It's much more easier to, you don't want tags to appear in different places, and then it becomes a mess. So that's why I always advise to have it in one place. You don't install anything other than Tag Manager on your site or your mobile app, and then use Tag Manager to send pixels of GA4, send pixels of Google AdWords, conversion API, whatever that you have, do through GTM. And the most important measure is basically try to understand whatever KPI that you are putting in GA4. Try to understand what is the variance between that number versus what you had been reporting on Universal Analytics. You definitely see a lot of variation, but that's okay, because it's completely different way of tracking data. So 10%, 5 to 10% variance, fine. More than that, then you need to look into why that's happening. Then finally launch the GA4, and then after that post QA is basically trying to understand the difference between what Universal Analytics is reporting versus GA4 is reporting. So you have to use that in parallel. Then only you can understand the difference. Then only you will understand the variance, right? Then you try to switch over to GA4 and eventually. So you have little over 2 months left right now. But that's still a good time for me to at least try to educate your stakeholders, try to understand the change that is happening, and try to switch from UA4 report, Universal Analytics reporting, to GA4. And few other considerations that you have to take is basically how you're going to keep your data backup, whether you're going to use a BigQuery or other cloud that you have, whether you have your own instance of SQL that you have that you can use there. So that's a mechanism that you have to identify. And then similarly for universal analytics, how do you back up it? How do you process the data? Are you going to upload into Google spreadsheet and use a data studio to run to read the report? Are you going to run that via BigQuery or your PostgreSQL or MySQL SQL to run your data? That's all up to you. There is a flexibility that you have to do it. But again, the challenge here is that it does need technical knowledge. You need somebody who is well versed with writing SQL to run your future reports. Once you've backed up to some SQL database, whether it's BigQuery or some other thing, you still need somebody who is well versed in SQL to understand and try to do that to your KPIs into a data studio dashboard, a Looker Studio dashboard, or your Tableau or whatever visualization tool that you are using for your reporting. And also one important thing, as I mentioned earlier, we are going through a change where a lot of vendors are just deleting the third-party data, third-party cookie data. So which means that tomorrow something changes, you're gonna lose a lot of data. So I always suggest that you consider server-side tag management. So you take this. Currently, the client-side tag manager is basically all the tags are stored in your GTM tag, and that is owned by Google. So, but you can take the data back to your own server if you wanted to, whether it's BigQuery owned by you or some other cloud that you have. I always suggest that it's important that you consider server-side tagging so that in the future, things like big changes happen, you still own the data. All right, so it's a lot of change. So what we have done is basically we put together some templates for Looker Studio using universal use for your GA4 to read the GA4 report. So what we have created is basically created a template that looks similar to universal analytics, but for reading GA4 data. And I will provide the template as part of the email, or we may be uploading it on our site at a later point. We will definitely inform you about that. So what about the universal analytics data? So there are two things that you can do. Basically, you can simply go to Google Analytics and export data one by one and store in spreadsheet. That's a little a lot of work, but there is some connectors that you can use. One is basically Google Analytics spreadsheet add-on, and you can take up to 6 months of data using it. I suggest that if your data is more than 100K user per month, I suggest that you use every 3 months data to use to store in your spreadsheet, or you can use Supermetrics add-on to get the data from Universal Analytics. Once you have stored that somewhere, whether it's Google spreadsheets or somewhere else, you can use a Looker Studio to report whatever report that you've been using. Create that in Looker Studio to read a report. And we also have created one for you, and we will provide that as part of post emailer. And second thing is basically whether you wanted to have a robust way of storing the data, then you may have to consider Google BigQuery or PostgreSQL, and here also Supermetrics tool could be very useful for you. So some of the tools and platforms that you could use. One of the tools that I always suggest that somebody who has got a lot of SQL expertise in-house is Analytics Canvas. It's a little expensive. I think it's about $22.50 to $260 monthly, but it's a drag drop mechanism. Instead of writing SQL, it will write SQL its own. So we don't have to write SQL for processing your data. For data storage, these are the key main storage mechanism that you can use. The key platforms: BigQuery, GA4, Tag Manager, Looker Studio, and Google Marketing Cloud. Are there any alternative? Yeah, there are alternatives, but it has its own advantages and disadvantages. One of the surprising fact, which I kind of very interesting, is that GA4 is still not a GDPR compliant product, because you cannot choose where your data reside. That means that it's violating the fundamentals of GDPR. But because we are based in Canada, if you're serving CCPA, it's a CCPA compliant solution. And then you have Adobe Analytics, which is the best among all of the available here. It's even less costlier than GA4 360, by the way, and it has got much more better retention frequency, etc. So you don't have to reinvent this wheel. Basically, we have gone through this for our several customers. We have worked with this, over different customers, regulatory frameworks, try to put together different things to for our customers so they can do that pretty easily. Usually, some of our migrations take 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes it takes more, depend upon your client. But generally, it's going to take approximately 3 weeks to migrate your data. I'm also giving about 6 meetings per month to customers who need some guidance. I'll provide my link to a link as part of post mailer, so you can book 30 minutes meeting with me. I give six meeting monthly on a first come first serve basis. That's all I have. I know that I haven't gone through in depth, but that's itself took us almost 40 minutes. That's kind of end of the webinar. But if you have any question, I'm more than free to answer right now. Where is the question? How do I see the Q&A? Okay. Hello.
Sorry, my internet just dropped for a little bit.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, again, feel free to drop them in the chat bar, or if you'd like me to mute you, you could just raise your hand and I can give you the platform to speak. Looks like people understood everything you're saying.
That's something that's very surprising, because it's much more complicated topic than this. So either they didn't understand what I said, or
oh, sorry, you got someone here who's got their hand raised. Just a second.
The answer is no. But okay,
sorry, there's just someone who had their hand raised. Ido, go ahead, and then Elke, you can go after.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Sanil. Buzz, thank you so much for that lecture. So I wanted to ask this question. Can you talk a little bit more about tag managers, how to set them up?
Yeah, sure. So let me see if I have a... So basically, tag manager is a tagging system where if you have different types of marketing pictures that you need to track, that you can use the tag manager to track your data. So what does that mean? So if you all you have to do is basically you create a Google Analytics account, Google Tag Manager account, and then place your, let me show you how, let me show you an example. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
So, so basically you create a Google Tag Manager account, and then you can install the Tag Manager, only the Tag Manager into your web app or your mobile app. And then once you install it, Tag Manager, what you could do is like you can create your own tags, you know, whether it's a conversion API or I mean, this is a little complicated because this is a server side. I'm just gonna go to a simple client side. Basically, that's become a little bit easier for you. Maybe a different one. So how you install it? So once you create your Tag Manager account, they can install a cookie that you can get it from there. This is a cookie that you placed in the head, and then there is a cookie that you place after the body. Once you place this, then you don't need to add any cookies in any pixels inside the in the web page or anywhere in your mobile app. All of that can be managed through tags here. So this is the GA4 code that you can create. This is a measurement ID that you can see. Let me show you where the measurement ID resides. So this is GA4, and so that's your measurement ID. Okay, you can copy that, and yeah, you can copy that and then put in here. This is a measurement ID, and then whatever data that these are the variables that I was talking about earlier, right? What kind of data that you can use n number of variable. So once you save that, the GA4 will be installed on your system, on your mobile app. You don't have to go and put the GA4 code inside the website, but the Tag Manager will do it for you. Any tag that you need, you can add it here. Say for example, pixel code for Facebook, it's added here, and it's going to appear on all the pages. Similarly, Tag Manager is a system where you can install different types of tags inside Tag Manager. Does that answer your question? I know that it's I haven't gone through detail just because we have a limited time. But like I discussed earlier, I am more than happy to spend 30 minutes with people who may have questions. There was another question that I just saw in here. GA4 is a paid platform. It is not a paid platform, but your data storage is limited. It's based on the number of users that you have. You have to store your data somewhere. That there it becomes you may have to pay for your data storage cost, processing cost, etc. So that where there is a little bit of extra cost, even if you're using a GA4 for your analytics. Does that answer the question?
Okay, they said yes in the chat. Awesome. And there was someone else who had their hand raised. I think you can go ahead.
Thanks. I'm coming from a business owner perspective where I set up Google Analytics thinking one day I will actually use it. And so far, honestly, I don't use it. Do you have any idea how much it will cost to have someone help me set up U4 and how to, like the templates sound like great, learn what to export every 3 months, which is like a range? Like I found the seminar was a little bit hard for me to follow because I have no development background.
Right. Yeah, that's where it's become a little bit challenging. But I think like, the basic setups won't cost you that much. Maybe like, between, $400 to $500, you can do pretty much the basic setup for a small business that can be done.
Okay, that's right to know. I just wanted a range. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question?
But maybe if I have you still on that, and you do think it'd be a lot better for someone who has no development background to have some help to set that up properly and learn what to export and what to look for?
Again, you don't need, based on your need, right? Like you said, you are not using Google Analytics as much as then basic things can be set up on your own, and there is a lot of videos out there which you can use, but because it's a little technical, I suggest that you use somebody with some knowledge in GA4, some knowledge in technology would be helpful.
Thank you very much.
Any other question?
No more questions? Okay. If folks don't have any questions right now and something pops up, feel free to reach out to Sanil with any other questions you have or any info. Sanil, what's the best way to reach you?
It is through my email. I'm gonna put that in here in the chat. Give me 1 second.
Awesome.
I am available on chat, on email and here.
Okay, there we go. Right, so you can feel free to reach out to him there if there are no more questions. Otherwise, thank you so much, Sanil, for taking the time out of your day to do this. And thank you to all the participants for joining the call today. As I said, we'll send over the recording after the session, and along with some resources that Sanil mentioned during this session. So everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. Sanil, I'll be in touch after this, and I'll see you folks again soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Let's see.